Who knows what Jay-Z, J.K. Rowling, Bill Gates and Oprah Winfrey all have in common? Okay, I will tell you then. They have all overcome failure in one shape or form to go on to gain success in their respective careers. Welcome to My Perfect Failure. Join us as we delve into the world of our perfect failures. We will interview, explore, and discuss how our perfect failures can lead us to success. Join us and tune in.
Welcome everybody to another episode of My Perfect Failure. Today we have another fantastic guest. Today we've got a keynote speaker who's focused on individuals, asking them what's next. His captivating storytelling style and well-balanced humor take the audience on a journey that offers a clear and confident way forward. With 2 TEDx talks already to his name, to date he has spoken to over 10,000 business experts, government officials, young professionals, teens about planning for success and learning from failures. In living to his principles, he followed his heart and reconnected with his family in Barbados. Returning home after so much time abroad opened his eyes to the important things in life. Back home in Barbados for now, he is still on a mission to help people live their best life and to find their purpose. So a warm welcome to My Perfect Failure, Marlo Clarke. How are you, Marlo?
I am very good. Thanks for having me.
Well, thank you for being a guest on My Perfect Failure. Actually, I think we should thank Andrea. Andrea was the conduit that made this happen. So I think she gets a thumbs up.
Without Andrea, on many levels, you wouldn't be talking to me right now. With moving to the UK and being in Europe, Andrea was the key to all of it working, and even us meeting as well. So thank you, Andrea.
Yeah, absolutely. So she's the conduit to make it happen. Yeah, so keen to, and also from my perspective, you're from Barbados, where my family are from. So I love hearing the accent. I've got this here, a Banks beer.
There you go.
to make you.
I'm here.
To make you feel at home.
Thank you very much. Well, yeah, I'm in Barbados right now, actually. So just at my window there, the palm trees and the sun and the sky and all that. So it's keeping me going.
And it's lovely and hot, I can imagine.
Yeah, it is steamy. Yeah, I did close my windows to get out all the background noise. Yeah. So it will get pretty warm, but I won't complain about it.
Okay. I'm jealous because I want some of that heat because in England, it's just cold at the moment. We had little bits of snow this morning and it's just chilly.
I saw that.
So
there's plenty for everyone. So come on down.
People are wearing layers. So when we can travel again, I'm sure, hopefully we get to meet in Barbados. So cool. Okay. Without further ado. So you've got a remarkable story, a remarkable journey, not just because you're from Barbados, but I'm keen to get into your journey to England. So you moved to the UK and you've managed to make, like a bright future for yourself with zero connections. You didn't have any contacts. You arrived in the UK and you've created wonderful things, but there's been a journey. So maybe I'll shut up and let you sort of tell myself and the listeners a little bit about you and how you arrived in the UK.
Yeah. So it all started when I was 7, really. When I was younger, I learned at a very young age how small Barbados was, and I love it here and it's great. But I want to travel the world and meet people and smile with them and kind of experience life that way. When I was probably about 15 or 16 years old, I saw many of my classmates in school started doing well. So there are people that, Rihanna was in my class when I was 16, 17.
Wow.
We went to the same school together, Commerce School.
Okay.
And, when she got famous, my friends and I were at school one day and we saw her in a paper with Jay-Z. And we were like, is that Robin? Like, Robin's with Jay-Z? This is weird. And then, 6 months later, she was on MTV with Ponder Replay. And we were like, this is really cool. And I was like, well, she was, in our classrooms just like us. Like, if she can do this thing, maybe we can do it as well. And that's the point, really, because before then, to be honest with you, my mantra was never try, never fail. So really? I never played any sports, no instruments. I was like, if I don't try, I can't fail at it. I was kind of afraid of it. But then by seeing her do really well and, knowing what she went through, because it wasn't as simple as like singing one day and becoming famous. Like it was a 2-year process that we got to witness with her. So I realized that, to do these kind of things, you got to take bold action. So that's when at 17 years old, I was like, I got to start doing more stuff.
Okay. And just back to Rihanna, did you knew that she was going through that process, that she was singing and she was trying to push the envelope? You were privy to that?
We knew a theory about it because she had sang at our school pageant, and she won it. And then and then she ended up singing then for a producer in the US. So we kind of knew in the background that she was working on it, but we didn't know the extent of it. Like no, I don't think anyone outside of our close family knew the extent of what was happening until one day. And actually, there was a podcast. I think it's called How I Built This, and I think one of the guys that was there when he was being interviewed was mentioning how she sang, for them at Def Jam, and then they kind of locked the door and was like, "We're signing you. How does this work?" Because she was so valuable. So it was really cool to kind of not just witness her as a person. She was very nice. She actually gave me dating advice when we were like 14 years old.
Really?
One day she gave me dating advice. Yeah, so it was really cool witnessing just like a classmate, really cool person, and then seeing them, develop very quickly.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was just, and even now, where she turned 33 this week, I think I turned 33 next month.
Yeah.
I'm kind of still seeing like she's still like dominating the world almost, which is fantastic, and doing different avenues and singing is great. But what about, cologne or lingerie, or it's just nice to see that and have that example of a person. And then as I got older, there was Ryan Brathwaite, who was a world champion in the 110 hurdles. So it's just nice having those examples when you're young, to then give you confidence to take bigger risk in life because you've seen people take the risk and have them work out.
Yeah. So you had
after that, go ahead.
No, carry on.
Yeah. So then after that, I actually started playing rugby. Because it was like, if I'm gonna leave Barbados, I need to do something. Like she could sing, and she looks like Rihanna looks, which is great, but my singing isn't great. So I need to do something so I could play a sport. So I found out about rugby. I had never heard of it before, but I went to it. My friend Sandra at Stanley Lake were playing. I went, I watched it. I was like, I could do this. So I got on the national team in about 6 months.
That's quick.
I go on YouTube and just YouTube rugby. Yeah, YouTube rugby and watch videos. And physically, I was fine.
Yeah.
I could jump high, I could run fast. I was, I was, to be a winger or a flanker, I was the correct body type for it. So I just Googled it and YouTube rugby and trained and all that, and then that way. And then it was, rugby is a very short career. What happens? I went to the US to get the job there. The day I got my degree, I bought a plane ticket and just flew to Iowa and asked the CEO for a job. I knew him through my summer camp job. Yeah. So I knew it's my first big risk, right? Like if it's going to work out, I got to take a big action. So I got my degree. I bought a ticket that same day. The next week, I flew to Iowa and asked him for a job. And volunteered for a month. And a year later, I was, living and working in Iowa. I had a 7-year career there.
That is a big risk. So you didn't have the security of knowing that you had a job. You bought a ticket, arrived in Iowa, and worked for. So you worked for a month and hoped at the end of it that you would have an opportunity, but you didn't know that definitively.
There was zero chance of it working. Not zero, 5% chance of it working. So what happened is I was a camp counselor out in Bluegrass, Iowa. And the first summer I was there, it was great. The second summer I went back, I went to the CEO as a joke, and I was like, Frank, I want to work for you. And he was like, we do work for me. I said, no, I want to move to Iowa and work for you. I like permanent. He was like, okay, well, at the end of summer, come see me. I saw him at the end of summer. He said, okay, well, finish your degree and give me a phone call. So I got back to Barbados and I finished my degree. And I was like, you know what? If I call him, he's very nice. He's very like kumbaya. But if I call him, it probably won't work because there's no job openings. So I'll call, I'll be like, hey, Frank, I got my degree now. Can I get a job? But like, there are no openings right now. Just keep checking the website. Or, I was like, that's not going to work. So I knew, at that point, I was 22 years old. If I spend, $1,500 on a ticket, and it doesn't work out, what do I lose? I lose $1,300. But if it does work out, what can I get from that point? So I was I had the privilege of, at that point, I had the privilege of being young and taking a big risk. And I had a lot of guidance as well from people around me. So yeah, I showed up, I asked them for a job, I volunteered for a month. And my exact quote was, I'll volunteer for a month and I'll be so good to find the money to hire me.
Wow, that's confident.
Because again, but odds are it wasn't going to work, but I was okay with that because I would still learn a lot in that process. And I actually played rugby in Iowa during the summer. So I stayed with the rugby coach as well. And then at the end of it, he said, I want to hire you, but I don't have any money. I need to, like, the money will come. Yeah. And a few months later, they got the money because they saw the value. And, you know, I think that I was able to repay them because the program that I was able to build with them, we fundraised over $1 million.
That's incredible.
In my time there to build a program to help teenagers who commit crime. So, you know, I think I repaid their investment very handsomely.
And what was the program? Tell me a little bit about that program.
Oh, yeah. So we got a grant from the federal government. It was a sub-grant. And the aim of the program was to enroll teenagers who live in high poverty, high crime areas, who were charged with crimes in the Scott County juvenile criminal system. So they were charged with crimes. So I went to the juvenile court. I was like, hey, my name is Marlo. I'm 25 years old. I have never run a program before, but I want your help. And this program will be successful. All I need from you is your guidance, and I need referrals for students who you think will do well. And then we all became pretty good friends, and they sent me students. And, you know, I didn't work in social work ever. My degree is in economics. So I just went around and just interviewed the kids' parents, and I interviewed police officers. And I was like, hey, what does a great program look like? And then I went that into action and kind of was able to create a program that was built more on building trust. So we spent the first 2 months building trust, no actual programming, no advice, nothing. It just, let's build trust first. And then after you trust us, we'll give you options on what you could do. And then you'll choose options, but because trust our advice then, because there's that baseline.
Yeah. So that sounds amazing. So you're kind of like reintegrating these kids back into a situation where they had a positive outlook on life and they could pursue positive things.
Exactly. I know, but also it wasn't just that, you know, we had some flexibility in the program, and, you know, my economics mind with my calculation showed me that I can give all the advice I want to students. So if they're hungry, they're going to steal a car. Like, that's just the way it is. Yeah. And no one can blame them. If humans are hungry, humans find ways to eat. So we actually provided financial assistance. So if you were hungry, we fed you. If you needed clothes for an interview, we bought you clothes, like on the spot. Like, there was no process of, you know, asking this charity or this charity. It was, if you want to work, we'll buy you a cell phone, you know, a cheap phone. We'll buy you a cell phone to get the call for the job interview. We'll buy you clothes for your interview, and then we'll pay for you to get your identification. So it was just, you could get a job. It was, you could do this. And if you want this, we will support you along the way if you show that you're serious about it. So it was one where we helped the students financially quite a bit. The limit was about $2,000 per student after we enrolled them on what we could help them with, whether that was food, whether it was paying insurance month or gas. A kid would call me and say, Marlo, I don't have any gas to go to work tomorrow. It's like, say no more. I get in my car, I meet them at the gas station, and we build their time.
Really, that's incredible.
But the company, it was a YMCA. Yeah, it was a YMCA, and you know, we funded some money, but then together we would decide, you know, we were comfortable spending this much. So they supported me as well, quite impressively, to just allow me to go out and just fill a kid's tank up. Yeah. Or, you know, if it's Christmas and they have no food, just take them to the grocery store and just buy them groceries. But that's how you build trust as well. And that's how you show that you're there with the long haul. So we found it a better investment of money to build that trust. And then when they do agree, they want to do something, support them in that financially as well.
Yeah, that must have been incredible. It's incredible that you got the trust to develop and build that program, but it must have been amazing for you actually to contribute to these kids' lives who may have spiraled a little bit out of control for whatever reason, but actually to help them, prop them up, and give them the skills, the support, and the tools to do, positive things actually that they're probably more interested in doing, given the opportunity and the platform.
Yeah, I really enjoy talking about what didn't go well. And not every kid made
Okay.
it. We enrolled
Yeah.
about 400 students,
Mm.
but I mean, some of them got killed. And when
Really?
they died, this one student, his mom called me the next day, and I hadn't seen him for like 2 years. He was out of the program for a while, but she remembered the impact we had on him.
Yeah.
And she was like, so I went to her house because she was struggling. I went to her house and talked to her for like 2 hours.
Yeah.
And I wrote a little note, and she put it on her fridge. It was about, he was a great young man. He was on the right path. He was trying his best. Basically, he was at a party, and there was a gun at a party, and he ended up.
Yeah.
There was an accident happened, and he ended up dead. So then we wrote this note out, and she put it on her fridge. And she said, "Do you mind speaking at the funeral?" And I said, yes, whatever you need. So we go to the funeral. I was standing in the back because I don't like to be too close to the front. I want to be and when the pastor was like, "Anyone want to say any words?" I was walking up to the front, but she thought I wasn't coming yet because she was at the front. I was taking my thing to walk, so she actually went up and said and spoke. And what she said were the exact words that I wrote for her on the fridge. She got up, said those words, and just said, "I love you, young man. I miss you." And she sat down. And on the way up, I met her on the way up, and we hugged, and she said thank you. I went up and I spoke, and and there were many young people in the audience as well who I knew who were also his friends.
Yeah.
So I needed to speak to them for a bit. So it was, I can tell you all the great that happened. I have many students right now who still reach out to me right now. I had a student message me on Monday because of hard work, or if a student is struggling in school, or if a student does well in school, they let me know. But there's also the converse well, and it's just our as adults kind of listen, understand, and listen is important. I'm processing because adults have this thing with teenagers sometimes where we know what's best, but that doesn't really work very well. It's more about listening and giving options and then working with them through the options. So not me telling you, but us going this direction together.
Yeah, no, it sounds amazing. It's great to hear and see that you still have that bond with these kids, and you're still, even though you're back in Barbados, you're still impacting these guys' lives, which is great for you and certainly for them. So they've got that level of support. So I want to get into, you arrived in England, so your journey to the UK. How did that come about? You arrived in the UK, and what was
okay, yeah. So perfect. So I was in the US, did this job for a long time. It was great. It was all laid out in front of me. But I started giving speeches in schools just for free, just to kind of share it with more kids. And it was a pretty good speech. But I realized that, I came back to Barbados one year, and my nephew was like, "Marlo, you come home for a week every year, and you come home and you leave, and it breaks my heart." And I was like, all right. In America, I got, 3 weeks holiday. So I was like, I need to do something. I can't just keep living in America like this. And I was like, you know what? I'm gonna leave. Like, my purpose has changed. I've achieved traveling and helping around the world. My nephews and nieces need me now. So I told my boss, hey, I'm going to go back to Barbados. And I was about 6 months from getting a green card.
Oh, wow.
And usually when you move to the US on an H-1B visa,
really,
a green card is the holy grail, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep. And I was like, you know what? No, if I get this green card, I'll stay here and I'll lose that connection. And I was like, I'm gonna go home. And they was like, what are you gonna do? I said, I'm gonna be an uncle. That's it. I'm gonna go home and be an uncle. But again, I had the ability to do this. I had savings, and I knew speaking was in my future because I was speaking a lot. And it was going really well. So back to Barbados, I had a great uncle time. We played Pokemon Go, we played football, we watched games together. It was great. Yeah. And then about 6 months into that, my father saw one of my speeches, and he said, "Marlo, you know what? I'm happy you came home, and I see you have a great connection, but you need to go now."
Really?
What? It was like, I know why you came home. I know why you came home. I know why you came. I understand it. And I'm happy you're here. But what you're able to do with words and how you're able to impact people, the world needs that,
Mm.
and you should go explore that. And, I was like, well, all right then. And then my mother was like, yeah, like we know you love us and we're happy you came home, but we can tell that you may get stuck. So go figure out. And I was like, well, I got here 6 months ago. I didn't really know what to do or where to go. So literally my thought process was this, no lie. I was in my room and I was like, okay, I'm going to be a public speaker. How do I do that? It was like, well, I've already been to America. I've already done there. Canada, I've already been over that side of the world, and Canada's really cold. Australia is really far away from my family, and I get speeches in English. So I got to go where to speak English. And I was like, so Canada, America, Australia are off. There's England. It's only 5 hours time difference, and they speak English. All right, I'm going to go to England. And that was it.
Wow.
I packed up my bags and I went to Europe for 6 months. And why I traveled Europe first? Any good speech contains three things. It has information, obviously.
Yeah.
It has a good story, but it also has humor. And I wanted to understand humor around the world. So that was my study.
Yeah.
Because if I understand humor all over, and in America, humor is very, Kevin Hart, right? It's a little louder. It's a little like, hey guys, how's it going? Which is fine. But in Europe, it's different. In England, no offense, it's more like self-deprecating. It's more like, I did this silly thing. In Finland, it is more stoic. In Norway, it is more of a chuckle. So I traveled to 12 countries around Europe as a case. Now, I had a great time traveling, but I was also studying the nuance of humor around Europe. And in October of 2019, I moved to England, and I was like, all right, I'm going to be a speaker now. How do I do this? And I started from scratch. I started Googling. I started kind of emailing people, seeing how that would go. And I was like, you know what? The first thing is I need guidance. Like, there's always guidance in the process. I could start from scratch, but I got to find someone who can help me.
Yeah.
So I started finding public speaking events. So I went to 3 or 4 big public speakers. They had these conferences. I would go, I would shake everyone's hand. I would meet everyone. I would try to just meet someone who could guide me. Obviously, the guys having a conference want money from me. And I was like, well, I considered paying it. And I was like, you know what? No. So I'll go to the conferences and I'll meet people and we'll go from there. And that's why I ended up meeting Andrea. This event, it was at Heathrow Airport at a hotel there. And I went on the first day. I didn't meet anyone. One more thing on networking, what I did was I would go to the conferences, but I would pay for the VIP ticket. Because the VIP is where the real networking is. Yeah. So I would invest money to go into the VIP section, because if you're paying for VIP, you're serious about what's happening here. So the first day I went, I shook everyone's hand. I met no one. I met people, but no one who could help me. And the second day I was like, I don't want to go back. Like, I lived in Watford. Heathrow was far away. I don't want to go back. I can't do this. It's just too hard. And my friend Sandra, who actually got me into rugby, Sandra got me into rugby when I was 17 years old.
Yeah, okay.
And she lived in Watford as well. So I was staying with her and her family, and she was like, Marlo, I'm going, just come. So we go one more day. I was sat in the car for like 20 minutes. I was like, I can't go inside again. Like, what am I doing? My job, my green card, all the money I was making. Like, what am I doing? It was hard, but I knew I was building a story as I went as well. And I go in that second day, and I was in line talking, and I was telling my story, and Andrea comes up, and she starts listening, and she was like, "Is that all true? Like, did you just leave and move here to become a speaker with nothing?" I said, "Yeah." And she was like, "And you lived in America and you left it?" I was like, "Yep, it's all true." And she was like, "Let's not go inside. Let's actually go upstairs and talk some more."
Really?
And I was like, "Oh, okay. Yeah." And she was like, "Tell me that story again from the beginning." And so I told her about, Rihanna and my friends who were doing well, and rugby, and moving to Iowa and going back to Barbados. And she was like, "This is amazing. Like, I want to work with you." And, and I was like, all right. So that day, we signed a contract that day. And it was one where she knew some stuff about public speaking, and she would guide me. So through her, I built my website, marloclarke.com. I was fighting. And the weird thing is that I'm a very private person and I'm very introverted. And so it was a struggle to be a public speaker because yes, what I say is valuable and, I get paid to do it, which is great. But I always balance, being out in the public eye. I don't really enjoy that side of it.
Yeah, I get that.
And Andrea had to convince me for a week to even make my website marloclarke.com. I wanted to make it Marlo from Barbados.com. She was like, nope, marloclarke.com. No, and I was like, but then you can Google me and find me. It's weird. She was like, Marlo, it has to be this.
Yeah, she's right. She's right. I'm in her camp on that one.
So then, and it worked well. And then she was like, you need TED Talks. And I'll be honest with you, I met her in November and we were supposed to talk twice a week, every week.
Yeah.
Andrea told me every single morning wanting to quit because life was so difficult. I was regretting everything. Nothing was working. And every morning I would wake up and call Andrea, but I couldn't call my parents because in Barbados, it was 3 a.m. So they were still sleeping.
Yeah.
Andrea every morning for like 3 months, just every morning.
Every morning you were talking.
You need TED Talks. Go ahead.
So every morning.
Every morning, because every morning I wake up wanting to leave.
Okay.
Yes. Yep. It was so difficult. It wasn't going well. I was regretting my decision. And she would say, Marlo, what you're saying is valuable. Stick it out. And to be honest with you, without Andrea, this wouldn't have worked. And to show you the trust that she had in me, Andrea wrote a book. I actually get it. I have a copy of it always in my office. So here's Andrea's book.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Andrea wrote this. It's her life's work, right? Andrea said, Marlo, I want you to write the foreword to this book. And I said, but millionaires and other people who are like great speakers doing well. She said, I know that, but you're going to go further than all of them. And I want people to know that when you were starting, I was there for you.
Wow.
So in Andrea's book, on the second page of her book, is my foreword to her book. She believed in me that much. And we kept talking. So I ended up getting TED Talks then. And how that happened is, I would go on TED website and I would find out what the organizer's name is and where they work. I would go on LinkedIn and I got LinkedIn Premium. I would go on LinkedIn, find them on LinkedIn. And with LinkedIn Premium, I can send 15 people like in mail just straight to the inbox.
Yeah.
So I messaged TED inbox. I had my website on there, my testimonials. I had an intro video, and the first day after 20 minutes, a guy replied, and he was like, "We would love to have you. I've seen your video. I've seen your passion." And about 2 weeks later, and the first guy was James from the University of York. And the second guy was from the University of Chester. And he was like, yeah, someone dropped out. I've seen you in my inbox. Do you want the chance? And that's why I got 2 TED Talks. So I did my 2 TED Talks within 2 weeks. I did one February 26th and the other one March 11th. And March 11th is when the world shut down, when, the travel ban was put on Europe. And then the coronavirus started going crazy and the whole world went haywire. And that's the success of it. But the hard part was the months to get that. I started drinking a lot because I couldn't sleep without drinking. I started smoking. I was sleeping like 3 hours a night because I would toss and turn. I was like, what are you doing? This isn't going to work.
Yeah.
But, when I started, I knew, I'm risking huge failure. And if it doesn't work, it's not the end of the world. It's much more difficult because I have no job anywhere in the world right now. But as hard as it is, I'm going to keep working through it because it will give me a better story, but it'll also give me more information on handling this situation. I can understand my audiences better because they probably go through this kind of feeling. And now I understand what they feel as well.
Yeah.
A lot better by living it myself.
Yeah. It's when you were going for those difficult moments and you couldn't sleep and you were drinking and you started smoking, sort of question around that. Do you think part of it, because at any time you could have flown home to Barbados, you could have thought, you know what, this isn't quite what I thought it was going to be. Why don't I just, pick a date, go online, see what the next flights are to Barbados and I can go home. I'm glad you didn't. But the reason I raised that point is because, do you think that there's some, when we have these moments and we think about failure, failure becomes a dominant force in our thought process. Do you think that that just really traumatizes us, and it takes away that ability of rational thought?
That's a great question. And to answer it, there are two main parts. Yes, you're correct, absolutely. And that's why in my TED Talk, What Now, What Next, I go
Yeah.
through the cycle of negative feedback.
Mm.
And it is, I've worked really hard, and I learned this from watching the students in my program, in our program in Iowa, because these students would come to me with a criminal record, no food, no direction, and they had to learn how to accept feedback from me and invest that feedback towards intentional action. And they may take that action and it doesn't work and you go again. So I realized that the students we had in our program had much harder circumstances than I had. And if they can do it, I can stick it out as well.
Okay.
But also on the thought of going back to Barbados, there's a concept called burning the boats, right? So if you want to, back in the day, if you want to take an island, you sail to the island and then you burn your boat.
Yeah.
Because there's no backup plan. You have to make this work. And for me, there was nothing in Barbados for me. There was no work here. I could my work visa in the US was gone. I couldn't work in the US. I had no job in Barbados. There was no profits in Barbados. So there was literally no other option. This had to work because I wouldn't be in Barbados right now. I would have if the UK didn't work out, I would have gone to, and the UK, the aim was to find a speaking agent. So I didn't actually work there. I just kind of went around, did my TED Talks and stuff. I would have gone to Canada and then to the US, but I would have kept going until this speaking thing worked out because I had no other option. There was no plan B. And the other thing on that point is that, with success and failure, there's some privileges that I realized that go into the equation. Many people say work hard and you'll be successful. That is terrible advice. And I tell you because right now I don't work hard anymore. I'm being very honest right now. In a lot of my life, I work hard. Right now I don't really work hard. I can work smart now. And telling people to work hard and you'll be successful makes people feel guilty for not being where they want to be, even though they work hard. We all work hard, whether it's mental work, physical work, we all do the best we can. Yeah. And I've realized that a part of the equation that's missing are some privileges that we have that make us successful. The first one is the privilege of information. It's just knowing the options. Students in poverty, they may not know the options of how to do well in school or after school. So the privilege of information. The second one is the privilege of guidance. So I knew I had to find someone to help me. I found Andrea. And Andrea could guide me. Marlo, create this website, make it look this way, craft this email this way, do this TED Talk this way. So I had the privilege of guidance. But the last one is I had the privilege of failure. To be able to fail is a privilege because I knew even if I failed, my life wasn't over. Yeah. I knew I had some savings behind me and I could come back to Barbados and be comfortable and go again. Or I could live in England for 6 months and not go broke because I was able to live cheaply and continue learning and going. So I had the time to kind of figure out along the way. So I had the privilege of being able to fail. And we don't always think about that as failure being a privilege. Because if I had 2 kids and a mortgage, I couldn't take these risks. But I was in a position to kind of keep going and to figure out. And even though it was difficult, I knew if it didn't work out and I had no end for me. Yeah,
definitely. Now I like that analogy, the privilege to fail. Because even if you had, like a partner and children, there might have been different types of risks that you could take. Not those risks. There might be different, smaller, different situations that you could take.
Exactly.
I believe you still would.
Yeah, but I'm happy, to be able to quantify. And my next talk actually is on these privileges of these privileges that lead to success. This is my next talk I'm working on right now.
Okay, brilliant.
And yeah, if I did have a family, it would have been a lot smaller, more calculated. But I was in a position to just rock up in England, like, hey guys, my name is Marlo, and I'm a public speaker. Yeah. And I had the freedom to do that because of the situation I was in. Now, I do not recommend people do what I do because I knew what I had behind me. I knew the savings I had. I knew if I go back to Barbados, You know, I thought about this a lot. It wasn't just one day. You know, we talk a lot about, you know, wealthy people dropped out of uni. People reference like Mark Zuckerberg and Bill Gates dropping out of Harvard. Well, they went to freaking Harvard. Like, so they had obviously things behind them that would allow them to take that risk and to fail big. You know, like Jeff Bezos, you know, he quit his job at open Amazon. He was working on Wall Street. He wasn't poor to begin with. You know? And people, we give these rag to riches stories a lot and make people feel guilty for not being where they want to be, but they had the privilege of guidance and of failure.
Yeah.
You know, and I could roll up in England with no connections because I was able to save efficiently. And I had the privilege of, if it doesn't work out, I still have my speeches. And if it doesn't work out, it's an even better story for my speeches because I took this huge risk and it didn't work. You know, so I like to really impart on people that it's all about you and your equation and the variables you have, but telling others to work hard and you'll be successful, or look at this person, they did this thing, you know, that's not good advice because they had their situation. I had my situation, they have their situation, and you have your situation. And all you can do is the best you can with what you have where you are and evaluate and grow from there.
Okay, so you evaluate your situation and you take the necessary risks based on your circumstances. Don't follow you if your situations, you know, if there's somebody in Barbados that's got, you know, 3 children and they want to become a keynote speaker in England, probably to come to England and live the family probably might not be the best thing to do at the moment. Because you can't do it at the moment anyway because of the pandemic, but
exactly. Okay. Yeah, the variables are all different. And I really like mentioning, because people like looking at me and saying, well, he did this and I did do that. It was hard. I saw my situation. I made the best choice, but I like teaching people as well, you know, how to make these choices and evaluate the feedback you get. That's why my TED Talk, What Now, What Next is, I think, valuable because it goes beyond failure. But when you do hit this point of failure or negative feedback, here's what you can do to continue improving.
Yeah, no,
from your own situation.
Yeah, no, your TED Talks are brilliant. I will put them in the show notes because I've watched them probably about 5 times. I've probably watched 1, 3 and 1 twice because the content that you've wrapped into those is brilliant. And you kind of like give an equation, which I think is brilliant because sometimes I think we were talking about it before. Just it's, you know, I think for people to evolve and to adapt and to deal with failure, it's good to have some perspective, some context. So you know something's happened, but it's how do I digest that and how do I move beyond that? So those are the important things that it's useful for people to have access to. It's the what. It's like I'm plagiarizing your TEDx talk, the what next. That's the real key bit. That's the key element. So
and a big thing is, you know, just one more thing before you move off of this. That thing is that we, you know, I like to give the what next, right? Like we say, you know, you gotta fail to succeed. Well, yes. So if I fail and I sit there, what do I do now? You know, so I like to be able to give that. If you do hit this point, here is how to evaluate and go again from this. It's not just the go fail, but after you do hit that point, I'll continue to improve. And I want to be sure I'm being useful and sharing that part as well, because I don't want to share just highlight reels or say, I did this, and then it worked out. But there was a lot of years in between there. And in those years in between, here are the things that I was able to do and figure out and grow upon.
Yeah, and I think that's that's really valuable stuff actually, because when success and failure can be black and white. So when we see somebody that's successful, we focus on that moment. Like Rihanna as an example, you had access to her journey. You know that actually when she arrived with Jay-Z and Jay-Z signed her, he didn't sign her because of that moment. That moment was important, but all the other moments that Rihanna had put in, you know, in her bedroom, at school, you know, with her family, singing, you know, her passion, nurturing, everything led to that road. So, and I'm sure there were some challenges in there. I don't know Rihanna, but I'm sure when she speaks to, you know, people that are close to her, I'm sure there's been some disappointments along the way where, you know, 1 or 2 things didn't quite turn out the way that she wanted to. And maybe there were some elements of discouragement, but she kind of moved beyond that. So it's a really valuable point that you make.
Yeah, and even even Carlos Brathwaite, we also him, Rihanna, and I were in the same year together at Combermere, and even seeing his process. Everyone sees the hitting 4 sixes to win the 2020 World Cup. They see that moment, but that was probably 4 or 5 years ago when we were 27 or 26. Well, for a period, he was making cricket bats.
Yeah.
Trying to make it. He was making cricket bats and selling them as a job, trying to make it to the West Indies team.
Yeah.
So everyone sees Carlos Brathwaite on YouTube hitting 4 sixes. It was a great moment. But I have friends that know him very well, and there was a lot of process of working in Barbados, of being on a first class team. And all of a sudden, Carlos Brathwaite, remember the name, that's great. But I was lucky to be able to see the process that they go through to get to that moment, not just the moment on YouTube, the highlight moments in the music videos, but stuff behind it. And they're very open about sharing those as well. And many people in the world, you and I see people on TV, we see the highlight.
Yeah,
I want to make sure to help other people as well see the process that goes into it. From my point of view, I was able to see them and take their example and get guidance from them. And then I want to be able to kind of share now the in-between bit. So not just I moved to England and I got to TED Talks and now I give speeches for a living all over the world. But I want to talk about the drinking I did. I called the Good Samaritans in England at least twice a week. I would go into their branches at least twice a week.
Wow.
And just talk and vent because I didn't know it was so difficult. So I go and the Good Samaritans, I will forever give them nations. Because it was always you could call them and someone would answer. Yeah. And they would talk to me almost whenever I called, just to talk, just to vent. I would show the not sleeping and the sleeping with a whiskey bottle by my bed because I could not sleep without taking a shot of whiskey. Yeah. And I would wake it in the morning, remind myself why I started, and go again, trying my best to make it work.
Wow. And it's wonderful that you had access to those, but I guess more importantly that you used them as a conduit to get past those moments, and it obviously worked.
It looks like it. It's been going pretty well thus far.
Well, yes. And so the pandemic happened, and you moved back to Barbados. Actually, you moved back to Barbados, and now you're with family. So I guess you've got the opportunity to see family, spend some quality time and whatnot. So what's next? Do you plan to come to the UK again? And when things, what's the plan? Because I guess what you can do from Barbados.
Anywhere, yeah. To be very honest with you, I feel right now that I have accomplished what I really set for myself. So as for what next, I don't really know. Okay. And I feel like I'm in a position where I don't really need to know. I've built, again, I have this privilege again of kind of just seeing how the world ends up. Yeah. So I'm in Barbados. I get my speeches from here. I have my home set up. I think I sent you a picture of it. You would laugh, man. Like my laptop right now is on a pot because to get the angle correct, I have this like table behind me with like a light on it. So, but I work from here. And we'll just kind of see how the world ends up. I'm going to give the world time to figure itself out. Right now, we're in a lockdown as well, but it's very difficult to make any firm plans from here. Yeah. But the thing about my career path is that, someone would watch my TED Talks, they would Google me, they find my website, they see everything, and they call me to give a talk to them. We work on the details and all that. And I can just, from this same setup is where I get my talks from. So I have the freedom now to kind of speak from anywhere. I do love being in Barbados. And I think as you get older, and maybe I'm forced to be here right now, so I've learned to appreciate it. So I appreciate Barbados a lot more than I did when I was younger. Yeah. Because it's a small island. I got to get off the island. So as for what's next, I will continue giving speeches. I will give speeches until people no longer want to listen. And I only give speeches because people want to hear it. I don't really have this like aura. I am the oracle of speak to you. Like I speak because people listen. Yeah. And go ahead.
No. I'm agreeing with you.
Yeah. And maybe that's because maybe it's because I am not a speaker that people listen because I'm just a guy from Barbados. I give my speeches like I'm talking to you right now. A big thing is that I'm just a guy from Barbados. I've done some stuff. Some of it worked out, some of it didn't. But here's what you can do in between. I have a story. I have moving to Iowa, moving to Barbados, moving to England. So I have these 3 stories now. I have information. I quantify how I do things. And yeah, I'll just keep speaking until people want to listen.
Yeah.
And I keep talks. As for physically where I will be, I don't really know. I'll just see where the world ends up and see how we go from here. I mean, I'll be 33 next month, so a wife and kids maybe on the agenda. Now that my trailblazing around the world is my trailblazing is a little I've trailblazed. The trail is a light behind me. And I have a clear path in the future, so maybe time to kind of bring people around me now to enjoy life with. So yeah, we'll see how that one goes.
Yeah, I've got this image of you getting married, and the day after you've got married, you just have this thought, and the thought is, I need to get a plane ticket to go somewhere because I've got this calling. And your wife is like, I have to do it. This has been part of my life as my journey. Just give me 6 months and I'll be back, and this is my calling. So if that happens, you do. Yeah. I feel there's just because of your journey, I just feel there's another stint somewhere, and I might be wrong, but I feel there's another stint somewhere. So we'll wait and see.
Oh yeah, I mean, definitely is about finding someone as well who has a similar lifestyle and has similar goals as well. I live on an island. It's great, but if my partner is in Zimbabwe or in Norway or England or wherever, is about finding someone who has a similar lifestyle and similar values as well, and is comfortable being transient. And the world right now is going a lot more online anyway.
Yeah, totally.
So yeah, it would be. Yeah, we'll see how it goes. But right now, I feel comfortable being in Barbados, speaking online, and kind of creating new speeches. We have my family as well, which is really great.
Totally.
Yeah, I'm just comfortable right now, and we'll see how the world goes.
Okay, wonderful. So Marlo, we're getting towards the end now, but I've got a couple of questions. So one question would be for listeners that have listened to your wonderful story that want to know how to transition from maybe a place of discomfort. Maybe there's a situation they're looking to overcome. What would your advice be?
Here's the advice I have for everyone who wants to do anything.
Okay, I'm all ears.
The first step is to understand and admit that no one has any idea what they're doing.
Okay.
Just accept that no one has any idea what they're doing.
Yep.
Like, we may project confidence, the best we can. It's like, look at me, my risk worked out. Do this thing and you'll be successful. If anyone is selling you certainty, they are selling something you should not be buying.
Okay.
I'll say it again. If anyone is selling you certainty, they are selling you something you should not be buying. As a guy who was taking their advice and gone out and done the things as well, if you admit no one knows what you're doing, it takes the pressure off of you.
Yeah.
Take the pressure off of yourself. Be gentle with yourself. The advice to anyone wanting to transition and be successful is to be gentle with yourself. Be gentle at the beginning. Be gentle when things are going well. Be gentle when things aren't going well, and be gentle when things work out. Okay. Because this whole journey through life and risk, we all want certainty and some great advice. You do the best you can with what you have where you are. And you take your risk, you calculate your risk. My advice is watch out on my talk, because that goes through the whole process of where to start. Why am I doing this thing? Why am I doing this? What do I want to be? You address, if I do this thing and it doesn't work out, how do I handle that pain? And then you take the step, you get the feedback, you rest, you evaluate, you be vulnerable. But it is about having a lightness about you. It's not about certainty. It's about having a lightness about you and admitting that no one really knows. So it's your job to go out there and kind of work to figure out and evaluate your feedback and take your risk, but evaluate your risk for yourself. Okay. Don't compare to your neighbor. Don't compare to anyone except yourself. Figure out your own equation and evaluate feedback as you go as well. Taking risk is great. Evaluating feedback and being honest with yourself is better.
Okay. That's very good advice, very sound advice. So my next question would be, this is a recurring question. So if you could invite three inspirational people for dinner, who would you invite? Who's going to get dinner? Who's going to get fed?
Are they alive or dead?
Either or. You've got carte blanche.
Okay, perfect. The people I want to talk to, being very honest with you, it is my great grandfather Oswald,
Okay.
my great grandfather Ursula,
Cool.
and my grandmother.
So I missed the last
really
one.
The only ones that
I missed the last one. Who was the last one? Sorry.
My grandmother.
Okay.
So my grandmother Dorothy. So my mom's mother is Dorothy.
Yep.
And my father's grandparents on his father's side are Ursula and Oswald. And
Perfect.
I never got to meet them. And they made choices. Ursula and Oswald bought some family land, in Bush Hall in Barbados, and that has served our family very well. And I want to talk to them to just learn about them. Yeah. And then my grandmother Dorothy, my mother's mother, she moved to the U.S. And left her kids in Barbados and moved to the U.S. to work to send money back for them. So they made lots of choices that put our family in the position we're in. And I really want to be able to just talk to them and thank them as well, and just kind of learn about their lives and their perspectives and why they did what they did and their process. I want to hear their stories. So any three people ever I would invite to dinner would be my great grandfather Oswald, my great grandmother Ursula, and my grandmother Dorothy.
Perfect. I wish I could make that happen. If I had a magic wand, I would. And I guess
awesome.
I guess my last question is, how can people find you if they want to listen to your TED Talks, or maybe there's a company out there that would like to talk to you about maybe helping them out with some public speaking? How can people find you?
Yeah, the easiest way is my website, marloclarke.com. That is MarloClarke.com. There you have my TED Talks on my website, my testimonials are there, my bio is there, and also my blog is there as well. I write articles on Medium, which is a publishing website. So those articles are on my website as well. And those articles really go into, it explains my TED Talks even deeper. So they go into, where I was when I got this idea, how I evaluated it, why I felt this way. So my website, marloclarke.com, is the best way to find me. And I just love, to be honest with you, I just really love conversation. Yeah. So if a listener wants to email me just with a general comment or a question, they can do that as well, because I just really find joy in communicating with people. It's just that I happen to get paid for it. But I mean, I give 300 speeches for free before I got paid for one. I just enjoy the process of it. My email is marlo@marloclarke.com. So anyone can feel free to email me with just a question, a conversation, or any work opportunities or collaborations as well.
Okay, perfect. So Marlo, I'll put all those details on the show notes. So people, if you haven't written them down, they'll be in the show notes so people can contact you freely and watch your TEDx talks, which are wonderful. Marlo, thank you so much. I've had so much fun talking to you, connecting with you, and I've learned a lot, and I've been inspired as well. So that's not a bad way to spend sort of an hour or so of my time. So thank you so much. Thank you everybody for tuning into My Perfect Failure. And to find out more about the show, please visit www.myperfectfailure.com. Thank you very much, everybody.
Yeah, also, Paul, I want to thank you as well. I met you a week ago, and this podcast is a great for people to connect with others around the world, hear their stories, and kind of get inspiration from other stories as well. So you're doing a great job. So thank you very much as well for doing this podcast and sharing openly with others around the world. So thank you very much, Paul.
Marlo, thank you so much. Great privilege to have you on a podcast and to be inspired from you and to learn from you. And definitely you have to come to England, or actually I've got a better plan. Myself and Andrea will come to Barbados when this is all settled, and we can have
that plan.
And we can have one of these. Or
there you go, down on the beach.
Or a few of these. So take care, everybody.
Perfect. Sounds great.
Take care. Cheers. Right. Bye.
Thanks for listening to My Perfect Failure podcast. Be sure to visit www.myperfectfailure.com to join the conversation. Subscribe to our podcast on iTunes or Google Play. Look out for our next episode.